When Cliff Harris angrily pointed at Thomas Henderson and called him a jerk, it sparked one of the most misunderstood moments in Dallas Cowboys history. But the truth behind what really happened reveals something far more remarkable about one of football's greatest safeties and the culture he helped build. Cliff Harris wasn't supposed to make it in the NFL. He was an undrafted free agent from tiny Ouachita Baptist College, a math and physics major who showed up to his first Dallas Cowboys training camp with almost no expectations. Most teams had never even heard of him. But Harris possessed something special that couldn't be measured in combine drills or draft grades. From the moment he stepped onto the practice field, Harris displayed a unique combination of fierce determination and football intelligence that would define his entire career. He studied the game like a scholar, breaking down every play and memorizing every assignment in Coach Tom Landry's complex defensive system. While other players struggled to understand the intricate flex defense that made the Cowboys famous, Harris mastered it completely. His physical style earned him the nickname Captain Crash from his teammates. Hall of Fame coach George Allen once described him as a rolling ball of butcher knives, a testament to the devastating hits he delivered week after week. But Harris wasn't just a headhunter. He was an astute student of the game who could anticipate what opposing offenses were going to do before they even knew themselves. The Cowboys of the 1970s were built on a foundation that few teams have ever matched. Head coach Tom Landry created more than just a football team. He built a culture based on discipline, intelligence, and collective purpose. Landry once said that a coach gets his men to do what they don't want to do in order to be what they always wanted to be. This philosophy shaped everything about how the Cowboys operated. If you're enjoying this deep dive into one of football's most fascinating stories, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And let me know in the comments what you think about the Cowboys' team-first culture compared to how NFL locker rooms work today. Harris thrived in this environment because it rewarded exactly the qualities he brought to the table. The Cowboys didn't care about where you went to college or what round you were drafted in. They cared about whether you could do your job and help the team win. Harris proved every single day that he belonged, earning 6 Pro Bowl selections and 4 first-team All-Pro honors during his career. The heart of the Cowboys' success was the Doomsday Defense, a unit that struck fear into opposing offenses across the league. This wasn't just a nickname dreamed up by marketing executives. The Doomsday Defense represented a philosophy of relentless, punishing football that defined an era. Harris was a key part of this legendary unit, alongside players like Randy White, Harvey Martin, and Ed Jones. What made the Doomsday Defense special wasn't just the talent, though they had plenty of that. It was the way they played as a single unit, each player knowing exactly where his teammates would be on every snap. They embodied the team-first mentality that Landry demanded from every player who wore the star on their helmet. Harris and his teammates created their own world inside the Cowboys' locker room. As Harris later explained, they really lived in their own world where everyone else could live by whatever rules they wanted, but the Cowboys had their own set of standards. This insular environment allowed them to focus entirely on football, while the rest of the country dealt with social and political upheaval. The Cowboys' locker room operated as a true meritocracy. Your worth was measured by one thing only: your ability to contribute to winning football games. It didn't matter what color your skin was, where you came from, or what your background looked like. If you could help the team win, you were valued. If you couldn't, you wouldn't last long. This system created an environment where conflicts were handled internally by the players themselves. When someone stepped out of line or acted in a way that hurt the team, his teammates would address it directly. They didn't need coaches or management to get involved because they had bought into the culture so completely that they policed themselves. The most famous example of this self-policing system involved Thomas Henderson, a talented linebacker who had earned a Pro Bowl selection and helped the Cowboys win Super Bowl titles. Henderson was blessed with tremendous athletic ability, but he began to change as his career progressed. He started calling himself Hollywood Henderson and developed an ego that put him at odds with the team's collective mentality. Henderson's transformation from a team player into someone his teammates saw as selfish created tension in the locker room. He began treating his fellow players poorly, screaming at teammates and acting like he was above the rules that everyone else followed. This behavior went against everything the Cowboys stood for. The situation came to a head during a locker room confrontation that has become part of Cowboys legend. Henderson started ranting and acting like a jerk toward his teammates, as Harris and Drew Pearson later recalled. The team's enforcer, Randy White, decided he had heard enough. White was known as one of the meanest players in the league, a Hall of Fame defensive tackle who never backed down from anyone. According to Harris and Pearson, White took care of the situation by dumping Henderson in a trash can. Pearson joked that it was 2 hits, Randy hitting Henderson and Henderson hitting the ground. This version of events has become the story that most people know, a tale of team justice where the physical enforcer puts a troublemaker in his place. But Henderson himself later told a different version of what happened. In his autobiography, he described getting into a fight with White after what started as a playful interaction. Henderson admitted that he hit White, who responded by smashing his face on the floor and stuffing him into a teammate's locker. More importantly, Henderson revealed that he was on crack at the time of the incident. This admission completely changed the context of what happened. Henderson wasn't just being difficult or selfish. He was dealing with serious personal demons that were affecting his behavior and his relationships with his teammates. The confrontation wasn't really about football or team chemistry. It was about a man struggling with addiction who needed help. What's remarkable about this entire situation is how the Cowboys handled it. Despite the racial dynamics that could have made things worse, Harris and Pearson both insisted that the incident created no tension or hard feelings in the locker room. The other players understood that this wasn't about race. They knew there was no color involved in what happened. The team's response demonstrated the strength of the culture that Landry had built. They had created an environment where problems were addressed as team issues, not racial issues. A player's worth was determined by his contribution to the collective goal, nothing else. When Henderson's behavior became detrimental to that goal, the team dealt with it as a football problem. This approach worked because everyone bought into the same system. Harris explained that the common goal and the detail of the work was what players on both sides of the ball appreciated most. Drew Pearson echoed this sentiment, saying that the commonality of the goal was the most important thing to everyone in that locker room. The Cowboys had effectively created their own sanctuary from the outside world. While the rest of America was dealing with the complex aftermath of the civil rights era, the Cowboys' locker room operated by different rules. They had built a meritocracy where everyone could see who the best players were at each position, which reduced politics and backbiting. Harris noted that in the earlier years of his career, he felt more sensitivity in the black and white relationships on the team. But under Landry's leadership, they had developed into a group that blended together as a true team. They weren't ignoring racial issues or pretending they didn't exist. They had simply created a system where those issues became secondary to football success. This culture produced incredible results on the field. The Cowboys made 5 Super Bowl appearances during the 1970s and won 2 championships. They became known as America's team not just because of their success, but because of the way they carried themselves. They represented excellence, discipline, and professionalism in everything they did. Harris embodied all of these qualities throughout his career. He played 141 games for the Cowboys, winning 2 Super Bowls and earning recognition as one of the greatest safeties in NFL history. His journey from undrafted free agent to Hall of Famer proved that the Cowboys system worked exactly as Landry intended it to. The legacy of players like Cliff Harris extends far beyond their individual statistics or accomplishments. They helped create a template for how successful organizations should operate. Their emphasis on collective goals over individual recognition, merit over politics, and discipline over chaos provided a model that still resonates today. Harris and his teammates showed that strong leadership, shared mission, and unwavering commitment to excellence can create unity even in diverse, high-pressure environments. The Doomsday Defense became more than just a nickname. It represented a way of approaching challenges that prioritized the team above everything else. The confrontation between Henderson and White, as witnessed and later explained by Harris, serves as a perfect example of how this system worked in practice. When someone threatened the team's culture, that culture was strong enough to defend itself. The players didn't need outside intervention because they had internalized the values that made them successful. Today's NFL operates very differently than it did during the Cowboys' dynasty years. Social media, player empowerment, and changing attitudes about authority have transformed how teams handle internal conflicts. But the fundamental principles that made the Cowboys successful remain relevant for any organization trying to achieve sustained excellence. Harris's story reminds us that talent alone isn't enough to create lasting success. It takes discipline, intelligence, commitment to collective goals, and the willingness to hold each other accountable. The Cowboys of the 1970s proved that when these elements come together under strong leadership, the results can be truly special. If this story of teamwork, culture, and football excellence inspired you, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into NFL history. What other legendary teams or players would you like to see covered next? Let me know in the comments below. Harris's impact extended beyond his own playing career. He became a mentor to younger players, sharing the wisdom he had gained from his journey through the NFL. His ability to break down complex defensive concepts and explain them in simple terms made him a valuable teacher long after his playing days ended. The respect Harris earned from his peers was evident in how they spoke about him years later. Teammates consistently described him as someone who led by example, never asking others to do anything he wouldn't do himself. This kind of authentic leadership was rare in professional sports then, and remains uncommon today. What makes Harris's story even more compelling is how he maintained his humility despite achieving the highest honors in football. He never forgot his roots as an undrafted free agent who had to earn everything he received. This perspective kept him grounded and made him approachable to players at every level of the organization. The truth about Cliff Harris isn't a story of downfall at all. It's a story of triumph, of a man who overcame long odds to become one of the greatest players in NFL history while helping build one of the sport's most successful cultures. His legacy lives on not just in the Hall of Fame, but in the example he set for what it means to be a true team player.